You guys excited? Well, you better get your towels.
Look at all the towels they got!
Yeah, we're about to get wet.
Didn't know you like to get wet, though.
Well, not that kind of wet. You guys get parched? You thirsty?
You a thirsty bitch.
I was actually referring to water, but what the hell?
Start the show!
Welcome to What Will You Survive, America's #1 news commentary, bringing you current events and relating them to survival situations. I'm Michael Martin, and here's what's going on today. So recently, I came across this photo, and obviously the date has been photoshopped. They are talking about the Flint water crisis. It has not come to a resolve. They still have nasty ass water. And today we're going to talk about three things: how it happened, why it happened, and what we can do to fix it. So let's start the show. First off, what we need to know is the KWA was established as a secondary water authority for the area. Flint was getting their water from Detroit. They're the Detroit Water and Sewage Association. I believe that's their name. And so they came up with a second one that was going to incorporate different counties, and the water was going to be divvied up into the I-69 corridor, it's referred to. So they got together, the management people, they discussed all these things, and they decided that they were going to bring water from Lake Huron through the I-69 corridor with the KWA, and Flint was going to just buy water from them instead of getting it from Detroit. So now it gets exciting because Detroit doesn't like this. They asked them to reconsider. Obviously, Detroit doesn't want to lose any more money. So Flint decides they're going to go ahead and go on with it anyways. So they get stuff passed and they begin construction for the pipeline for the KWA. Now, originally the KWA started with what's called corrosion control systems, which is essentially just putting different types of phosphate. There's actually two different types I have right here. There's a polyphosphate and an orthophosphate. Sometimes they use a blend of the two. Orthophosphates are typically used for fertilizers, and polyphosphates are what they use for the water. Phosphates come from phosphorus. They have to process that particular matter and in order to get it the way they want it. And then they put it in the water, and it basically stops the water from corroding the pipes, which then leaches toxic metals into the water, which then people drink. So they originally had started doing that. Certain plants had it. Well, Detroit decided, we're done with you. Since you don't want to come to us, we're cutting you off. Detroit's water had corrosive controls. Well, they needed to come up with a temporary solution to get water to the people. So they decided to pull the water from the Flint River. Flint River water, obviously not corrosively controlled, and they went on with it anyways. Well, this water then came through, The water eventually started corroding things, and sooner or later, some toxic metals, because the piping there isn't exactly new, especially in homes, it started leaching lead and other toxic metals into the water supply, discoloring it, giving it foul odor, and making it harmful to the residents' health. Phosphorus actually is not bad for you. Most of your bones are made out of phosphorus. So it's not necessarily adding a chemical that's harmful to you. However, they do process this phosphorus to make phosphate, and I haven't been able to find any studies talking about how that affects people's health. So we'll move on. So then people started saying, hey, the water's no good. And eventually, Flint people started putting out boil advisories, and then they put out another boil advisory. And then GM decided to stop taking their water because it was creating rust. It was corroding the metal of the brand new cars. Then the University of Michigan in Flint found lead in the water. And it goes on and on and on and on until finally some lady decided to take it up with the EPA. Now, the EPA came in and said, well, we need to check this stuff out. And they found that, hey, this water is absolutely terrible. You guys need to do something about it. Well, being the government bureaucrats that they are, things take a lot of time. And nothing really gets done. So after this resident, her name is Leanne Walters, after she spoke out, people started paying a little bit of attention. And let's see what we have. Then some people started finding out that they were getting Legionnaire's disease, which is awful. I believe it's a lung disease from nasty water that when it gets heated up, it releases into the air, you inhale it, and it can kill you. So the Department of Environmental Quality came out and said, hey, there's no corrosion controls in place because you guys decided to take water from somewhere else temporarily. Then a bunch of people came in and decided they wanted to check the water, and they all argued with each other, and nothing was getting done. Then they decided to declare a public emergency because 9 people died from Legionnaire's disease. In addition to that, people started dying from what's called shigellosis. There was an outbreak of that, which is essentially a disease caused by not washing your hands. So it gives you diarrhea, all types of nasty things, and it's not good for you. So people were cleaning themselves with baby wipes because they didn't trust the water. This is god awful. It's turning into a really bad scenario. Well, then obviously people started finding out about this. CNN came in and did a story, and it was starting to get more traction. Then everybody got all butthurt.
We're pretty butthurt about it.
And spoke out. Now, let's move on to why this particular situation happened. Well, what I've found might surprise you. So, the problem is, this could all be avoided if the people, and I hate to break this to people, but if the people would have taken responsibility for their own lives, this issue would not happen. This is not just the people of Flint either. This is in a grand spectrum I'm referring to. People put too much faith in their government. Millions of people think that life is too complicated to handle their own lives, but yet they think a few people are able to handle millions of lives. And so what we do is we use the processes at hand, and they're not necessarily bad processes with our republic and electing representatives to represent you and your well-being. But the problem is when you give up your right to the things that you think you need in life, like water, clean water, and you give it to people that are inept and don't know their ass from a hole in a wall, and that's exactly what happened here, then you're going to have situations like this. Now, the corrosion control stuff, honestly, that could be traced back to a mistake. We needed to get water temporarily. We didn't really think about it. The pipes in most people's homes were really bad. There was a lack of thinking on their part. They are also equally responsible. The government is extremely responsible for this situation, but so are the people. You guys need to get rid of these people. When someone doesn't stand up and represent you in what you need, and they tell you that the water is fine to drink, which they did, well, then this is also your fault. This is your fault just as much. You can go and cry, and you can boo-hoo about how nobody helped you and took care of you, but you know what? When it comes down to it, you need to get rid of these people. You need to take responsibility for your own life and fix these issues when they happen. Kick these people out of office. They're not God, okay? They're there to do a job that you put them there for. And if they don't do that, and if you don't vote for these people, well, then you're definitely responsible. Because if you're giving these people the power to control your life and your water supply, then you deserve this, especially if you're not speaking out. Take action, all right? And if you're saying to yourself, well, the government, they wouldn't hurt us. No. Oh, they wouldn't? No. The government never does anything wrong. They value your rights as a human being. Yes, of course they do. Not only that, they never watch you and look at what you're doing. They never, spy on you or chase after individuals that don't meet their particular views as a human. They don't, they love us. They love the roads, the bridges. They value security of our people abroad. They value our infrastructure. They do, don't they? Yeah. They're wonderful people. They help us whenever there's a crisis. They really do. They look out for our well-being, our safety, our sanitation, our health. They would never do things in secret. No. God, no. They would never do that against our own will. Well, you know what? They do. If you're watching, you've seen all those things. And you know what? It's okay. Governments have done this in the past. You need to learn history. You need to come to terms with that. And let's move on. All right? Now, let's find out what you can do, what we can do, because the people that don't live in Flint are also guilty of this. And I want to make that clear. So, what can we do? Well, the first thing I said when I was learning about all this, doing all this research, was, why don't these people dig wells? And I was like, well, okay, let's see. What's the groundwater like? So I did some research and found groundwater maps of Michigan, which you can see right here. And they list everything from map of just the counties to water table depths to how much water you will get in certain areas because there's glacial deposits underground. There is a lot of information that people have done that is at your fingertips. All you have to do is want to know. Take, for instance, the depth to the water table. You can see here on this particular slide, there is the county that Flint, Michigan is in, Genesee County. And as you see the colors, Flint's right about there. And so it's about somewhere between 0 to 30 feet in depth for the water table. Not very far to dig at all. Okay, I have a very shallow well at my house, but still 30 feet max, that's not too bad. Now here's glacial deposits. As you can see the colors there, It's about an orangey color, maybe red. So the yield there is about 10 to 70 gallons to 70 to 200 gallons a minute. No one is using that much water at their house. If you do, you are a horrible water waster and you should not be allowed to deal with water. So let's see what's on the next slide. So I said dig a well. I was like, is anyone doing this? Oh, what do you know? Found a GoFundMe page, but it was just for a couple that wants to start there. There's a guy doing it for them. They said it would take roughly $5,000 to $8,000 to do the permits, dig the well. They found out that it is legal to dig wells in the area. And they actually had some good points. It doesn't have to be for every home. An apartment building can dig a well for the apartment. Get off the grid. Stop relying on these people. The state eventually came out and told people to use filters or drink bottled water. Now, I'm all for filters, okay? All for filters. I think there's 3 top filters that you're going to want if you decide to buy a filter. And they're either going to be the Big Berkey, the ProPure, or the Alexapure. These get out the small, minuscule chemicals and contaminants that are in water. And that's what this is right here. This is through my ProPure filter. And I love this stuff, and you can taste the difference. If you look at the clips here, this is out of my water. I have good water. We're on a well, digs it, puts it in the tank. Tank runs from the tank to the house. Our pipes, however, are old. This is that corrosion control that we were talking about, probably happening in my house. Now, we don't put up with it. We're not going to boo-hoo. We're renting. But I decided, what the hell, filter our water. And that's what we do. For cooking and drinking, we filter. And you can see here in the pictures from the bottom part to the top part, you can see all the rust particulates, the metal that's in our water that this thing gets out. It's insane when you start to see what's actually in your water. Now, I don't want to get too much into it because this particular episode is about Flint in particular, but your local municipalities are more than likely adding chemicals to the water. These chemicals are fluoride, which comes from fluorine. They're putting chlorine in the water because chlorine disinfects and kills things. They find bromide in the water, along with many other metals, mercury, lead, all those bad things that you don't want in your body. They find them, as well as drugs. You'll see in the study. You don't want the fluoride, the chlorine, the bromine. If you like Mountain Dew, a lot of bromine. They use brominated vegetable oil. It's good to know these terms so you know what's going in. These chemicals, like iodine, they're called halogens. Your body absorbs them, specifically your thyroid. So if you drink a lot of water that's chlorinated, that's got fluoride in it, it will calcify things like your pineal gland. And these things, this is not good for you. You wonder why people have thyroid problems. I'm not saying this is the reason, but they have studies here that show chlorine actually is linked to breast cancer. As someone who has lost someone to breast cancer, I can tell you, had I known this, I probably would have spent all the money I had at that point in time to buy her a water filter. Anything to help. So let's move on to some slides. If you can afford a reverse osmosis system, which I would say probably very few people can, I would get that. Or a water distiller. You can use those. Those get everything out. But unfortunately, when you distill water a lot, it also gets a lot of the minerals that your body needs. So you have to supplement with other things. We have here some facts on fluoride, talking about it being a halogen, like I mentioned. And it can cause cellular dysfunction and damage hormone receptors of regulatory sites if it makes its way into the membranes. They have links to it being harmful to people with autism. So if you have children that are autistic, filter your water. anything helps anyways. So even if they're not autistic. There's pesticides in water and fertilizers that leach in. That's probably closer to what I have at my house, considering I'm a well. Fertilizers might possibly get into the groundwater there, so it's good for me to filter anyways. A lot of this stuff is redundant, and we'll cover this in another episode on water. They have the CDC, according to Mercola, the CDC came out and said that the ADA, or the American Dental Association, now advises to avoid using fluoride in children. But, funny enough, on the ADA's own website, it says fluoride is safe and wonderful and give it to everyone you can. Please, your government loves you, don't they? Yeah, they would never do anything to hurt you.
You're a rabid anti-dentist!
Like I said, think about going with a reverse osmosis or a water distiller if you can. That would be fantastic to do. If not, do like me, get a gravity-fed water filter. The Brita stuff is cool for the bugs and the larger things, but it doesn't get the chemicals out of the water. It doesn't get a lot of the chlorine out. So you want a charcoal-fed filter that can process and make your life a lot better and healthier. And we got all these on actually the ADA's own website. They had a fluoridation fax, which talked about how to get rid of it by reverse osmosis and distilling. So, with that said, I appreciate you guys watching the show. I hope it was very informative. Remember, take responsibility for your own actions. Buy a filter. And you know what? I'm getting pissed at all this. A lot of people come out and they'll talk about how things are bad at Standing Rock and in Flint and all these poor people. They want these things, but they don't take action. They just are internet warriors, keyboard warriors. Take a stand. Buy someone in Flint a water filter. Help them out. It's not like Michigan, the area over there is doing great financially. So why don't you start a nonprofit? Start a GoFundMe. Actually send these people filters, because it would be great if every household had one filter for their food and drink and another shower filter, which you can buy. I know ProPure makes them. They work. They'll filter all that crap out of their water, and these people might actually stop getting all these diseases like Legionnaires and all these other, the one that's giving them all diarrhea because they're not washing their hands. Help out. I'm thinking about doing a nonprofit myself. Once I get this show up and going, I think I might do that. I'm going to actually really think about that. Anyways, in closing, I appreciate you guys watching. You guys keep staying tuned for more videos. And remember, in the age of information, ignorance is a choice. Thank you.
Hey, I see you. If you're seeing this and you like it, push the like button, push the subscribe button, share it with your friends. It's important. Don't make me come look for you.